Welcome back to Footy Classified. It's been a tough month for Kangaroos coach Dean Ladley, who's in the studio tonight about to face off with Wayne Kerry. There's been some recent animosity. Let's take a look at the history of Wayne Kerry and Dean Ladley.
I think it's time they have a real crack at someone like a Johnny Longmire that can come back there and be the face of the club.
Yeah, well, look, I got news for him. I'm certainly the man for the job.
I just think that we really need to have someone that, you know, we can look at, that's got a real strong character and that can lead this club into the new era. Things
like that don't help the football club, and put himself first, and I suppose he has a bit of a history of doing that over the last few years, as we've seen, because he's one person that ripped the heart out of the footy club.
I have not spoken to Dean, but nobody speaks to Dean that played with Dean. Dean is very aloof. He's, I mean, even when you run into the guy in person, and this is a premiership player, and I've spoken to other premiership players that played with Dean, and they've walked past him, they've been involved in functions, and you hardly get a flicker of the eyelid. Dean has an arrogance about him, and he's not very forthcoming. He's not overly friendly with guys that he played in the premiership with.
Well, he's been friendly enough to come in tonight and face the music. Dean, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Hutchie. Good to be here.
How did you feel sitting there watching that then, with Wayne sitting alongside you here?
Oh, look, it's a little bit disappointing, but I suppose that for 100 years, these things have happened in footy clubs where the club legend is, comes out and has an opinion. And look, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
But it was pretty personal. You were called arrogant and aloof. Yeah,
look, it's lucky I've got a pretty thick skin. Look, the thing is, the one mistake that I've probably made in this is falling into Wayne's comments the first time. And look, there was some stuff that came up again on the weekend, and I thought, well, I'm not going to let that happen again. I just thought that if I just stay out of it and make sure that I do my very best, perhaps it won't go on. Wayne certainly had his go, and I had my go, and for me it was going to be certainly left at that.
You said he ripped the heart out of the footy club. He said you were aloof and arrogant, and no one who played with you in that premiership, 1996, speaks to you. Now, can you just clarify that? Yeah,
look, there's probably one person that I haven't spoken to, and that's probably been Wayne, because I probably haven't seen him. I work with two of them, Darren Crocker and Matthew Capuano. I've coached 4 or 5 of them over the last 6 or 7. Still coach one of them, or 2 of them now. I ran into one. Have any of them rung you about this? No. Look, just the guys that I work with.
Duck, you're sitting here listening to it all. Mm-hmm. What is the rationale behind it, mate? I'm going to try and back you up on most things, but for me, I can't quite understand the personal
The rationale behind my comments were fairly simple. I'm worried about the Kangaroo Footy Club. The one thing that people are forgetting here, and I said when I did the interview on 3AW, I said that I have nothing against Dean. I want Dean, I think in some areas the Kangaroos has done a reasonable job. I think in some areas not so good. I think it's time that the Kangaroos, and when I said the time, wasn't this year. I didn't want Dean to be sacked. Dean's got a year to run on his contract, not like other clubs that sack their coach halfway through the year or at the start of the year.
Not all that helpful to say it before round 1.
That's probably not helpful, but then again, I'm sure Lance is probably thinking a couple of your comments.
This is not about Lance.
Move on from
well, let's talk.
You
let's talk.
Yes, okay.
You said you've got nothing against.
And you went again on the weekend.
I conceded that the timing was incorrect as far as saying that Dean should not should finish at the end of the year. No doubt about that, and I did concede that, Carolyn. But I stand by what I said.
But I want the Kangaroos. You just said you've got nothing against him.
I want the Kangaroos to be around. I want the Kangaroos. Let me finish, Caroline. I want the Kangaroos to be around for the next 100 years, and I want someone at the end of this year, Dean, finish off the year, get the Kangaroos into a very strong position. And look, I speak to a lot of Kangaroo people. I'm forever Kangaroo supporters are coming up to me. I'm only saying what a lot of people think. I had the courage to come out and say what I get told from a lot of people. And once again, I have nothing against Dean. Dean and I have never been the closest of friends when we played together and or after.
You wouldn't know that, given the way the last couple of weeks have unfolded. I don't know if there's history between you.
No,
but you've had the first go.
It got personal after Dean's comments. That's when it got personal, because I was talking about Dean as a coach of the Kangaroos Footy Club. Not talking, I mean, Dean said that I ripped the heart out of the Kangaroo Footy Club. I mean, let's be honest, I give them, what do you reckon, Dean? Fairly good service?
Yeah, look, I think you did.
Pretty good service.
Absolutely.
And I think out of that, who's the best recruit that the Kangaroos have got in the last 5 years?
Well, if you have a look at our recruiting...
No, but who would be the number one guy?
Oh, well, look, Nathan Thompson's been pretty good.
Do you think Daniel Wells would be probably the best recruit you got?
Yeah, well...
And if I didn't leave the club, you don't get Daniel Wells.
Oh, come on, Wayne. You can't suggest they'd rather not rewrite history and have you leave the club the proper way. Of course not, Carolyn. I'm just saying that their recruiting has been very poor, and the only good player that they've actually got was, for me, making a mistake in leaving the club. And other than Daniel Wells, their younger players haven't come through like was expected. Let me ask you one more time. I just want to... Is there something that he did to you when you were playing together?
Never. No, not at all.
Okay. Let's give Dean the opportunity to reply,
go ahead,
please.
Dean.
Yeah, look, it is really interesting. You know, since 2000, the year 2000 to this year, in this year's draft pick, we have, I think, the third highest picks in the national draft. And, you know, we've really thought about our recruiting. And what we've really been trying to do is we've thought, gee, these kids, our retention rate has been low. And Wayne's correct in saying that. We've had one guy doing it for many a year. So what we've now really drawn a line in the sand, we've put all our recruiting by threefold and making sure that we lift that ante. And what we've done is, look, I took this job over in 2003. We went to 92.5% of the salary cap. We took $1 million out of the footy department. We've had people doing 2 and 3 jobs. You know, in the first 3 years, we won 53% of our games when all pundits said when Wayne was going to leave the football club and Dennis was going to leave the football club, that you may as well close the doors. You know, and we did battled out of our weight and have done and still continue to do so. But, you know, I drew a line in the sand halfway through last year and thought, right, we've had all these kids. You know, in 3 of my 5 years, we've drafted kids with all of our national draft picks. But, yet, you know what, they haven't come on. And that's because of we haven't had the infrastructure or the resources to nurture it and these kids. So what we've done is, to the detriment of the day-to-day running of the football club, less assistant coaches this year to coach some of the older guys, put 3 or 4 people into recruiting, into development and welfare to make sure we thrive rather than survive. I've taken this job on when the mentality of the football club has purely been survival. Now
that puts your job at risk, though, doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, look, but it's a wonderful opportunity for Dean Laidley to be able to come in and coach a side, an AFL side, which has been fantastic. But so with the Gold Coast opportunity and now with the redevelopment, we think we've finally got an opportunity to thrive rather than just go into survival mode. And we've really set about doing that at the beginning of this year, because with those 2 real big opportunities, that's what we want to do.
Robert Walls wrote an article as well. He rated all of the coaches, and it was pretty scathing on you. I think, if I can summarise it, and Kerry, feel free to jump in, he sort of maintained that you're a good assistant coach, but perhaps lack the wherewithal and know to be able to be a senior coach. I mean, how do you relate to that? And given that you know, the comments of Wayne, who then comes out and suggests that Longmire might be a better bet and Michael Voss might be a better bet, puts enormous pressure on you. It divides the club, as I said in the opening of this program.
Yeah, look, it may do, but I can't be sidetracked about what Robert Walls thinks or what Wayne Kerry thinks. We've decided, and I went to the board with this. Now, if I hadn't have gone and said, we've got to change this because we've got this opportunity now, we would have gone down the same path. Now, me going into my last year of my contract, that puts enormous pressure on me, but I'm not thinking of Dean Laidley's career here. I'm thinking of the North Melbourne Football Club. Now, I know Wayne's talked about John Longmire, and you know,
he was an example.
Yep, okay, he's an example, but, you know, gee, like, it's a bit embarrassing for John to have his name come up, and he's contacted me, not directly, but indirectly, about this. You know, he was in for the St Kilda job, and he was the front runner, and all of a sudden he misses out on that. Now his name gets bandied around again. You know, it becomes a little bit embarrassing for John.
Just purely on coaching, Wayne, a lot of outside experts say Dean's probably taken the footy club where they should be. Why do you think he's not a very good coach? Well, I mean, you obviously say he should be replaced, so...
If you'd listened to the interview in its entirety on 3AW, what it was based around having a front man, a real leader at your football club that people can go to and make comment, and people stand up and take notice. And we discussed Collingwood, and we said, well, they have their president in Eddie Maguire, they have Nathan Buckley, and then we went through other clubs. You know, I think Smorgon now at the Bulldogs, and I think, you know, they've now got Ackermanis. They've got people that people stand up. I think the Kangaroo, I don't think they have that. I think they really need a real strong character to be the face. I think it's fantastic that Dean's come in, and once again, Dean's coaching, not necessarily, and I haven't seen enough of the Kangaroos to be ultra critical about his coaching. I can say the times I saw the Kangaroos play last year, there were far too many times where the Kangaroos got overrun late, because I thought they went defensive and they overused the ball and they tried to save games, when in actual fact they got in front by being an attacking, exciting side. By the way, I don't think that happened on the weekend. I think it was just a case of Collingwood were a lot harder in the last quarter. Some people say, well, maybe Dean could have put a player down back, a loose player down back. I was actually excited when I looked at the last quarter that the Kangaroos were taking the game on as they did in the first 3 quarters. So if I was at the helm of the Kangaroos on the weekend, I would have done exactly the same thing. The fact that they got overrun is the problem.
It didn't go well for you with Shannon Grant, though. I mean, there's no escaping that was hugely costly for you. It cost you the game of footy. And an umpiring, there he is, he's marking the ball 46, 47 metres out. Stewart wins the umpire, and he kicks the ball from around 10. Now, we understand Adrian Anderson rang you after the game, and the AFL have apologised, but that doesn't give you 4 points that go towards you getting another job next year, does it?
No, it doesn't, and it's unfortunate, but look, again, we can't, or I certainly can't, as the leader of the football club, get caught up in that sort of stuff, you know. I actually was quite light-hearted this morning with the boys and had a bit of a joke about it, and we'll get Shannon Grant out there tomorrow morning and make him kick the goal again in front of his teammates. So, you know, it was an unfortunate incident, and we would have liked to have think that...
You're cutting the umpire too much slack, and maybe you're cutting Shannon Grant too much slack. I mean, it's a disgraceful decision, and it was a disgraceful kick from Shannon.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm not going to sit here and bag...
Should the umpire be dropped?
Yes,
Okay, a lot of people say if the umpire should get dropped, then a lot of people say, well, Shannon Grant should get dropped.
It's a fair argument, and it's hard to argue against it, but I mean...
Well, except that he's one of Dean's best players and he wants to win next weekend,
the umpire's made one mistake. Exactly right, but the point's there. I mean, if an umpire makes one silly mistake...
If the umpire didn't
make... He made a few more than
he would have made more than one.
If the umpire didn't make his mistake, I don't think Shannon would have made the mistake on the goal line.
No. Just as we let you go, Dean, Wayne's been muted as a potential skills coach, or... Mooted? I'm having a good night, aren't I? Would you have him down at Arden Street? Is he still welcome there this year in your tenure?
Oh, look, with what's gone down, I wouldn't imagine so.
Is it irreparable, as your captain said?
What you've got to understand here, you're asking Dean a question. I don't want to go down to the club and be an assistant coach, Hutchie. So
didn't you say you were happy to go?
I was happy to help out. If I was asked to help, I would go down and help. Well, now, like Dean said, more than likely I probably wouldn't, because, like Dean said, if he thinks it's irreparable, then it is irreparable.
Well, is it irreparable?
No, it's not irreparable. You know, I've got great respect for the man, for what he's done for the football club, but I just thought that the timing, what we'd been through, our pre-season had been so good. It would have been great for Wayne to ring up and say, what's going on at the football club? What track are you going, where you've been doing, because obviously he's just got a few new gigs with the media and that sort of stuff, to actually understand what we're doing and actually how hard it's been over the last few years, and the road that we now really want to take, because we've got a chance to really plan long term, and this football club hasn't had it for such a long time.
Duck, you reckon that'll be it? Do you reckon that'll be it from your point of view?
There will be no further comment about Dean Laidley, but there will be further comments about the Kangaroos, because I love the club, and I want the Kangaroos to be around for the next 100 years, not the next 10.
Fair enough, and well said. Dino, thank you for coming in. I mean, it was almost a no-win situation, but I thought it showed great courage, and hopefully for the good of the Kangaroos, it's onward and upward. If you are a Kangaroo member and you haven't signed up, then get on board now. It is a tough time for the footy club. In tough circumstances, they lost the opening game of the season. I'm trying to see that number there, but you can see it and jot it down and jump on board, because it's well worthwhile. Good luck for the rest of the season, mate. We do appreciate you coming in.
No worries. Thanks anytime.
Dean Laidley, the coach of the Kangaroos. Hang around.